It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Robert Bachmann. We're here in your beautiful apartment in Renana. And Robert, you are really a miracle. How you came into this world is a miracle in itself.
Absolutely not expected.
So if you could tell us a little bit about your life. You're 92 years young. You must be one of the youngest 92-year-olds I've ever met.
That's nice of you to say.
I'm really grateful to be here today.
You are welcome. My start of life was surprising for everyone. No one expected me. I'm an unexpected child. I'm second of a twin. Came 5 hours after my twin was born. No one knew I was coming, not the doctor, not the midwife, not my mother, no one. So no bed ready for me and my life. But the most interesting or peculiar thing was I was much bigger than my twin, and we didn't look like each other, but we were born nearly with 5 hours interval. We have had a very, very special life. Should I tell a little about the past?
Please, you were born in Germany.
I'm born in Germany. My dad was German in many, many generations and was fighting for Germany in the First World War and was kicked out, as you have seen on the document, was kicked out in 1933 when I was 1 year old. And as my mother was Danish, it was natural that we moved to Denmark.
Can you show that you have the document?
Yes.
Your father was a lawyer.
Yes, and had his own law office. And this is a letter from the German Minister of Justice, Juden nicht erwünscht. As a Jew, you cannot practice law in Germany. That was 1933 already.
And did you came from Hamburg?
Yes, north of Hamburg, in a little suburb called Altona. And why is it called Altona? Because it was very close to the Danish border, and Germany and Denmark had a historical fighting always, and then they called the city Altona to their Danish Grenze. That's why it's called Altona.
And your family, on your father's side, there were many generations in Germany?
Yes, and some very famous also. On my father's mother's side, the very famous Professor Moritz Oppenheim, who was international known, and the museum, the Jerusalem Museum, had a big exhibition with his paintings. Ramo, vil du tage billedet fra...
That was Oppenheim.
Oppenheim. Yes, I'll just show you. Hvis du tager det forsigtigt med rammen, yes.
So this is Moritz Oppenheim.
Yeah, uncle of my grandmother. And his closest friend was Goethe, the German poet. So I often heard stories from my grandmother.
And they had the exhibition in the Israel Museum.
Yes, and this is a catalog, the front of the catalog.
And you have an amazing picture of your great-grandparents.
Yes. You finished with this one? But that's from the Danish side.
Mm-hmm.
The family's name was Hertz.
And And these are great grandparents.
Yes, my grandparents lived in a very luxurious residence in the middle of Copenhagen, and had a textile wholesale company. And
How he started, your grandfather?
sorry?
I see how he started with this horse.
Yeah, we have seen pictures where he started traveling around with a horse in front of the wagon and selling clothes, and then he
Cloth.
became fabrics. So then he became the biggest company of its kind in Denmark, and he always helped people, and he helped a young Christian couple who started with a tailor shop, and they didn't really have money to buy the clothes, so he helped them in different ways. And this family's children were hiding us when we had to escape Denmark. They never forgot how nice the Jewish family was to the start of life. So we lived in their house, and I had contact with them also many years after our escape.
Robert, can I ask, with your family from Hamburg, the family, was it a traditional family? Did you come from a...
Yes, they were very traditional, not super orthodox, but very traditional, and their main hobby besides their work was music, and that I inherited the interest for music. So I was happy when Rabbi Stuart Weiss advised music to be a comforting element in our today's trouble.
You have a wonderful picture of your parents. Do you know how your parents met?
Yes, I think it was a shidduch. My dad came on a little trip from Hamburg and visited my mother's family in a suburb of Copenhagen in a very, very beautiful old house. Gider du at tage?
Want a picture of the summer house?
Yes, gider du? Eller gør jeg det? Men så afbryder we have a nice painting of the place you asked about. So soon after, it happened that they had to move out of Germany, and then it was a natural solution. My mother was 7th generation Danish.
And this is a picture of... Wow.
Of the summer house where they met.
That is so beautiful. And this is in Copenhagen or in Denmark?
Yes, north of Copenhagen at the coast.
And were your parents married in Germany or
No,
in Denmark?
they were married in the grand, beautiful shul of Copenhagen.
In Copenhagen.
It's a unique shul, a unique synagogue. Partly it's very old, and partly it's very big, and partly it's absolutely well kept. And the person who did the big job to keep it well lives next to us here. He was president of the community.
And after the wedding, did they move back to Germany?
Yes, but for a short time, as you see. They were married in, I think, 31 or 30, no, in 31, and in the beginning of 33, heraus.
And your father, was he a successful lawyer in Hamburg?
Yes, licensed lawyer. I have all his papers.
And where did he study?
Various places in Germany, but that I have to check. I think at Göttingen's University.
And did your father speak to you about serving Germany in the First World War?
Yes, and we have pictures also of him in uniform.
So they were the German Jews were very
Loyal.
patriotic. They were
Very
really-
loyal to Germany. Little did they know that it would be punished.
And did they ever think that such a thing could happen when
No.
Hitler came to power?
No, because it was a center of culture of Europe. And it's becoming again, when I hear the Berliner Philharmonic and other big orchestras playing, I can't believe what their grandparents did. And they are really, really positive today to Israel and Judaism.
So when your father got that letter from the German ministry saying that he can't work anymore,
They packed all their things and brought everything, every little silver spoon to their new home in Denmark.
and you were 1 year old
Yes.
when this happened?
And
Management.
now comes an interesting thing. When we had to escape to Sweden in 1943, 10 years later, what happened to our home? The social department of the city hall came in, packed everything, were hiding it, and when we came back after our refugee time in Sweden, we found every little needle in my mother's sewing case, everything we got back untouched, our whole home.
And nobody came into the house while you were...
I don't know if it was inhabited or not, but we know that all our things the Danish social welfare took care of for all the Jews.
That is very unique, because in most of Europe, the
Yes.
opposite happened.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
right. That's right. Everything was unique in our fairy tale.
And Robert, what is your earliest memories? What do you remember, what comes to mind growing up, or your earliest memories that come to mind in Copenhagen?
I think it was we lived next to. First, we lived next to the Royal Palace, Amalienborg, and it was always an event to hear the Royal Guard playing music when they paraded through Copenhagen. And later on, we moved to another nice place next to the famous Tivoli Gardens, where we also listened to the parade of the Boy Scouts and the famous Glyptotek. By the way, talking about Glyptotek, that's a famous museum with scientists and very ancient things. And the last time I checked with them was I found in a shoebox in Beersheba when the Arab boys had an exhibition with camels.
Bedouin market.
Hmm?
Bedouin market.
Bedouin market. I found in a shoebox, old rotten shoebox, this ring up there on the wall under the Chagall sign picture, and went to this museum in Copenhagen, and they said it's 4,500 years old.
Wow.
And it's from the Syrian-Israeli border, and it belonged to girls, and they cut a little piece of it because it was copper inside as payment. So I wanted to have it confirmed, and as I had close link to the Israel Museum, Bible Lands Museum in Jerusalem, I also went to them, and they have one similar, and they confirmed 4,500 years old.
It's amazing. If I can
You are
just-
welcome to take it down.
with you to hold it. So
You're
we're holding
welcome.
Something that's so bad, and you just found it in an old shoebox.
Yeah, among many other things, which I took 2.5 shekel. You
That's
can see the
incredible.
copper inside, the green.
Wow, it's amazing.
But
That's
if you want to
incredible.
hear my life story,
Very
you
much.
have to stay here some days.
So Robert, your family knew the beer family.
Yes, and that's also linked to our arrival in Denmark, because the first nights we stayed at a hotel, Metropole it was called, in the middle of the city, and we had some few rooms. We were my parents and my twin and I, and it was habit that the shoes, also children's shoes, were put outside the door, and in the morning they were polished and nicely ready to be worn. And next to our shoes were other children's shoes, and it proved that it belonged to the beer family, and that's how we met the beer family and stayed friends with them in many generations all the time.
They came from Frankfurt.
Yes.
And from that you became friendly with
The parents and the children, etc. And my closest friend was Rudi Beer, a son of the elder parents, and they were very special, very special. The father was an original, knowledgeable in antiques, and absolutely unique. And he was a real estate tradesman. But that were very nice memories.
Can I ask, when your parents left with you to Denmark, what happened to your grandparents, or what happened to your
They
extended
were
family?
certainly looking after us, but my dad, who didn't know Danish, had a problem to practice law, which was completely different from German law. So he helped. He was not allowed to work really by the Danish law. So he helped in my grandfather's textile shop with some bookkeeping. That was all, and was supported by my grandparents.
And your father's family in Germany, what happened to that part of the family?
They got out. My grandmother, who became 100, she lived with us for many years in Denmark, and was playing the piano beautifully until she was 100 years.
Wow.
And they had chamber music nights, etc.
And
but-
did your father have siblings, brothers and sisters?
Yes, a brother who last minute, with the last ship to America, escaped to Los Angeles when the Nazis already were established in Germany, and that was also a miracle. And he settled in Los Angeles, where we visited him. And then there was a sister who married a psychoanalyst, and he practiced in New York on Park Avenue. So they were well established, but we only had sporadic contact.
And were there any other uncles and aunts that didn't manage to leave Germany? Or did the
Not
majority of the
close.
family?
Not close.
The majority of the family managed to leave.
Yes. On top of this hangs a signed picture by Chagall. He signed it.
It's incredible. Sure, I'll take it. And it's with his signature.
Mm-hmm.
Du må sige, det er et postkort.
It is a
A
postcard.
postcard, but with his signature.
I took it along when I met him.
No, I'll bring it.
No, but
And where did you manage to meet Marc Chagall?
I was member of a society called the Student Federation, and they had famous international speakers, and I knew which night he was coming, and I was joining, and then I went up to him and said hello, and he was very friendly. But that's how I met many international people. I just say hello. That's also how I met Ramona. That was a beach flirt.
Ikke putte mig ind.
If I can ask, going back to when your family arrived in Copenhagen, they went to the hotel. Did you see did they go to your wife's family soon afterwards?
Of course, there was close contact. The hotel they stayed in was next to the beautiful home of my grandparents.
And do you have memories growing up
Yes.
in Copenhagen before
Yes.
you were taken?
Yes, I lived there 10 years from I was 1 year till I was 11. I had my bar mitzvah in Sweden, and to tell you how privileged we were, so lucky. I had a grand party for my bar mitzvah and my twins' bar mitzvah in Sweden in our home with a lot of guests and nice atmosphere. So we were actually a refugee deluxe.
So what's amazing is in Denmark, which is very different to all other countries, when the Germans came in 1940, there weren't major restrictions on the Jews. It
No,
only happened a bit
3
later.
years it was peaceful. We went to the synagogue, to the Jewish school, and we saw the soldiers in the street.
Do you have recollections? Do you remember?
Oh yes, yes. I was 10 years old 11 years when we had to escape. So of course, and we went like nothing happened to every Jewish event. But the reason behind was that Denmark was, according to some contract, supplying the German army with food from the Danish agricultural industry, and that kept the fire low, so to say. But then the resistance movement in Denmark against the Germans got very, very strong and heavy in October 1943, and then the conflict opened up with the Germans, and they tried to take the Jews to concentration camp. But you may know that the Danish Jews were taken to Theresienstadt in Czechoslovakia, and that was a bit milder, if you can say so, than other concentration camps. And the Danish government supplied with food packages.
They were put in a separate section. They had a
Yes.
separate section in
Yes,
Germany.
but
So
still,
used as to show how well they were treating the prisoners.
yes, they made a kind of a propaganda show that the Danish Jews were treated well.
When you were growing up in Copenhagen and you went to school, did you go to a public school?
No, a Jewish school.
A Jewish school, and you had Jewish friends?
Yeah. There was no issue about that.
And your neighbors, were they mainly...
No, non-Jews.
But you had Jewish and non-Jewish friends growing up?
Yes, because we were very few Jews in Denmark, and today there are nearly none. As the anti-Semitism grows, there are fewer Jews. But
And you used to go to the synagogue, to shul?
yes, and it was very famous because we had very special, after the war, very famous rabbis, and when they spoke, especially the Melchior, you have heard about the Melchior? Yeah. The Chief Rabbi Melchior Senior, when he spoke, actors from the Royal Theatres, professors from university came just to listen how a person could speak so interestingly. And that linked us also because we had very, very nice international renowned cantors. The Royal Opera wanted to catch them, but it didn't succeed. No, it was a service which was such a beautiful event. To go to the synagogue is not like in a shtetl.
And when the Germans came in, it must have been very frightening for your father, your parents, knowing what had happened.
Indeed, I personally saw the German airplanes invading Denmark from our children's room, and I didn't realize how dramatic it was. It was, as you also mentioned, it was quite a challenge to comprehend what happened.
And you have a wonderful picture of your brother. Your brother's, was this taken
Yes.
in Denmark?
Yes,
How old are you in this picture?
Ramo, hvad tror du, 10? No, that's just before our escape. I think I was around 10 years.
Might be 8, 9, yeah.
It's wonderful. So in the picture, where are you in the picture?
Where do you think?
You all look so similar. You
No, I don't see that. That's me,
and your twin brothers.
my twin brother who is not alive, unfortunately, any longer, and my younger brother who lives in Pitur and has had quite a success in life.
And your twin brother, what was his name?
Paul,
And your younger brother?
Werner, Werner, but we never ever use this name. Never.
What do you call?
Pyt, P-Y-T. He was small and round, and I don't know why I invented that when he was around 8, 9 years, and since then he is only called Pyt.
And Robert, can I ask, because it's amazing, I'm sure you remember, it was on Rosh Hashanah, I think,
Yes.
when the community realized what was going to happen.
Yes, the autumn holidays, and the Rav Melcher,
The grandfather of Michael Melcher.
yes, he went to the Shulchan and said, I have to let you know, immediately leave your home and get hidden and escape. We have no chance to survive if you stay. So out of the 7,200 Jews in Denmark, nearly 7,000 escaped by night over the sea Öresund to Sweden. You know, there's a belt of water where there's a bridge today. It took us 4.5 hours to cross the Sound in cold, windy darkness in the night, and suddenly the fisherman didn't want to continue the sailing in the middle of the water. So the solution was that we were climbing on board a lighthouse ship. And I still see my mother climbing on the steep side of the ship. She was not used to such acrobatic. And from there...
But before that, you were hidden by this Christian family that
for
once...
nearly 1 week,
family,
a Taylor family.
Do you remember their name?
Yeah. Hmm?
Buddy Hansen.
No. I wrote a big article which was published in 1 million dailies in Scandinavia on the 50 years anniversary name. And I wrote also that we were not allowed to get to the windows because the German had a office and station just opposite where we were hidden. So we were not allowed also to come into the garden. And the daughter in the house was so sorry we couldn't come out and play football. And I wrote that in my article on the 50 years, and she suddenly sent me a letter. I never had contact with her since 43. And then she wrote, she remembers so well how sorry she was that we couldn't come out in her garden and play football with her.
How long were you in hiding?
I think it was nearly a week, and some contacts were seeking transfer with a fisherman, a small fisher boat. And first we were 3 hours in this boat and until he reached the lightship. Today, the whole trip to Sweden is 16 minutes over the bridge.
I'm asking you the name of the family, maybe he remembers.
Tak. And from the lightship, they called the city and police patrol from Malmö, and they came and took us in a Swedish patrol boat to the coast, and that's how the article starts. Welcome to Sweden.
And when you came to Malmö, it was
yes, and when I was invited at the Swedish embassy, I was working with Scandinavia here in Israel, and I was invited for the Swedish ambassador here, and I was asked to make a speech, and my speech started with welcome to Sweden, we are happy you are here, and told them about our escape. But one thing moved me very much. The first time I crossed the street on the river, the sea, on the bridge, I saw an El Al plane about landing in Copenhagen Airport, which is just at the bridge, and with a Magenta David on the tail, and I thought, my God, which change of time. But I've always been very linked to the contact between Israel and Scandinavia.
Excuse me, the name was Larsen.
Lassen,
Larsen.
with two S.
That's the family that
Yes.
that hid you.
Yes,
Larsen.
and next to my grandparents' summer house, which you just saw.
And was this family given Chasidei Motalam, righteous amongst the nations?
I don't know, but every year on the time of our escape, my dad sent flowers, as long as they were alive, sent flowers in October.
And they remembered the good deed that
Oh, yes.
that your
Oh,
family
yes.
had done.
I think I'll show you.
So this is Israel Scandinavia business.
This is my work in Israel for 30 years. But I did it with a partner together here in Ranana.
Wow,
You're
that's
welcome
wonderful.
to have a look.
And can I ask, when you went on the boats, do you remember that trip?
Oh yes, I was 11 or 12 years old, and I had my bar mitzvah, as I said to you, in Sweden. And don't you remember from you were 11, 12 years?
But being on the boats, were you scared, or did you know what was happening to you?
Oh, it was high tension, but maybe the adults were more conscious or more
Aware.
I think so, but it was so dramatic that I don't know how much. Maybe we thought more afterwards about the blessing of our rescue.
Were there many people on the boat when you
No,
left?
they couldn't room more than 11, 12, 13, and we were crammed down with the sardines.
And
you know from where we started? Just outside the airport of Copenhagen, the Kastrup airport, and there were guards, Danish guards, who opened the gate and said, good trip. But we had to hide first behind, hvad hedder skur på engelsk?
Huts.
Yeah, behind huts, and then when the Danish guard of the port said, now you can risk to come forward, then we jumped into the
And
boat.
did you go together with the whole family left together intact?
We lived together.
But your grandmother came with as well?
No, she had passed away, and also my grandfather. So my mother's parents didn't live anymore. My mother's one brother, he escaped very early to Sweden. Some just managed to escape on a boat, on a traffic boat between Elsinore and Helsingborg, where the famous Hamlet Castle. And one brother was put in a Danish prison to avoid the Germans' capture, and only escaped out of the prison after several weeks. It was so dramatic. And they re-established their life in Denmark after the war. And that is also something which I today am wondering very much, how nicely we got re-established to normal life. Dancing, horse riding, going to the best schools after we came back.
Robert, a lot of your school friends, did the majority also manage to escape?
One got to Theresienstadt. His name was Paul Rabinovich, and he survived the concentration camp and became the best student in our class. He was a genius, and this tea table there in the corner I made at the school in carpentry hour, and he also, everyone had to make it, and he got the finest prize for his work right after he came back from concentration camp.
That's amazing.
So this is a memory from the year after coming back. But everything was completely like normal. There was what's called ration of bread, etc.
Rationing.
But very soon things became normal.
And that trip on the boat, did anybody get seasick, or because I think the seas were very rough?
Yes, but that I will not be able to remember. I think we were very well protected. My younger brother got also a sleeping pill not to make noise. That all kids were recommended, small kids, to get a sleeping pill, because you couldn't risk a shout. The German patrol boats were all the time sailing in the Sound. We had to find a crossing where they were not.
And it's amazing. I think all the boats managed to get to Sweden.
No, many didn't want, because they didn't know if they would be...
What about those that were drowned?
Were there boats that were drowned?
Not a boat, but
Yeah.
some of
No,
them
but
drowned.
many fishermen didn't know if the Swedes would be friendly and send the
got
boats
frightened
back, or
suddenly.
if they would confiscate. We didn't know, and the fishermen didn't know. So that's why we were unloaded in the middle.
But they took a very big risk by taking you.
Yes, and they got very well paid, very high sums. So I don't remember what my dad had to pay, but I think it was at that time, I think it was 6,000, but that I shouldn't be quoted for, because I don't know the figure. I only know that it was a lot of money.
And when you got to Malmö, do you remember embarking from the...
Oh yes, oh yes. The
What happened?
patrol boat had a pier, what you call in Landingsbro, pier?
Up here.
Landgang,
Yeah, pier.
like a bridge,
And
yeah.
we got up, and the Swedish policemen said, welcome, as we start the article. So it was dramatic, but maybe we didn't think about the high risk and drama so much while it was happening as afterwards. And then we booked into a hotel, and after a night's sleep, my mother, I never forget that, she started helping all the other refugees landing in Sweden with bed organizing and with food, etc. I was very impressed how she could do that after what she had experienced herself.
And what were you allowed to take with you?
Only our clothes.
No toys or no...
No, we absolutely from scratch we started. But we had family in Sweden, and people were very helpful, and I went to a very nice school in Stockholm. But the contrast between life risk and then suddenly be safe.
And the school in Stockholm, was this a public school?
Yes, I think it was an enlarged high school, but they didn't have a clue on what's happening in Europe.
And how were the boys? Was it were they kind to you, or did they?
Mostly they were peaceful. There was one with a swastika on his jacket who was open Nazi. One of the fellow boys in my class.
And he knew you were Jewish?
Yes, I was refugee and Jewish, yes. So it was a mixed impression.
And the teachers, were they kind?
Very.
And could you speak Swedish, or was it
Yes.
difficult?
No, not from the beginning, but I learned it, and I still speak Swedish.
It's similar to Danish.
No,
Yes, nearly.
the sound is completely different. The spelling is somewhat similar.
And German, a bit similar to German, or?
No.
Wow.
And all three Scandinavian language has its own melody. And Finnish is absolutely not to understand.
And how did your parents establish themselves in Stockholm?
Very soon my dad started working in nothing to do with his law background. He was even gardener, and I cried first day he came home with black hands. I thought I've never seen my dad like this, and thought he was suffering. But he was happy to be saved, to have work, to see things grow. But very soon he got an office job at a hospital and was also content there.
And do you remember the encounter when you saw your mother's family, your family, in Stockholm?
Oh yes, they have visited us quite often in Denmark. It was my mother's cousin and her husband and their sons, and there's still contact between some of my family in Sweden and them. They became quite famous doctors and lawyers. But we personally, it's long time since we had contact with them.
But you, growing up in Stockholm, you had a happy life with your...
Very privileged. I wouldn't say happy, but we lived in a nice apartment just opposite Bromma Flygplats. You have been to Stockholm? No, there's a big what's it called? Lufthavn airport. And life was very quiet and normal.
Did your parents keep any like the festivals? Did they keep Shabbat? Did they
yes,
keep,
we kept everything.
You kept everything.
Mhm.
And you learned for your bar mitzvah, you and your brother?
Yes, I had already started, and I was lining and
And who taught you when you were...
Sorry?
Who taught you the laning?
Oh,
Did they have a rabbi or something?
yes, but I think my dad did. But everything went as if it was normal, like we were Swedish citizens. We were so assimilated.
And was your bar mitzvah in the main shul?
No, it was one of the second shul. The main shul is very conservative, non-Orthodox. You know Stock? Okay, they have a huge, very elegant shul, but absolutely conservative, non-Orthodox. But we went to one of the smaller shuls, and everything went so smoothly, and I'm impressed how we manage also financially. But
And what do you remember about your bar mitzvah? It must have been very special for you and your twin brother.
absolutely, yes, and it was in late January in 45, and it was just before the liberation of Europe. We heard every hour now Montgomery had advanced to this and this place, and we are expecting that the Germans will surrender any minute. So it was a high atmosphere because we expected, but it only came in beginning of May, and we were celebrating in end of January. So it took some extra months, but we followed every step the Allied armies did in Europe, the maps, and even if I was only 12, 13 years, I followed every step in the war.
And Robert, can I just ask, because I'm fascinated, when you had your bar mitzvah with your brother, did you share the laning?
The lining?
How did you share it?
Yes. We each had a portion, and I did the haftarah.
Do you remember what the portion was?
Bo. Yes, I
That's
celebrated. Bo like Bob.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. And last year, when I was called to the Torah, I just allowed myself to give a short speech about my saving, my rescue in 1943, and about Parashat Bo, what it meant to me, not just as a normal person, but with a background.
So the community must have been so happy to have this bar mitzvah. It was
Yes,
such a celebration,
indeed,
such a tremendous
indeed,
celebration.
and we had very, very prominent guests. I don't understand today even how my parents managed to make such a big celebration. Big not only in style and food, but also in atmosphere. It was something unique when so many perished in the concentration camps, and then that we could celebrate like this. Unbelievable, hard to understand.
At this time, did you know what was happening in Europe with the Holocaust?
Partly, yes. Partly, but not to the extent which was revealed just after the war. But of course, we knew that there were very, very unhappy circumstances, to say it mildly.
And then when the war ended, when did you go back to Denmark?
I think a month after. I have pictures of it also when we were ready to go back with the coats on and nice hats, etc. And we had very few belongings, but most of the things, furniture, etc., we left there. But everything was so smoothly.
And coming back, that trip coming back,
Was dramatic.
was it traumatic?
Not traumatic.
No,
dramatic.
it was
Dramatic to be back because we felt like Danes belonging to Denmark. Only later on you felt in Scandinavia as Scandinavian. Today, when I'm together with my family from Sweden or from Norway, you don't feel that you are special Danish, you feel Scandinavian.
And when you did you come back to your home when you came back to Denmark?
No, that was not possible, but we very soon found a flat, not in the nicest part of Copenhagen, next to the Carlsberg breweries, by the way. But then very soon we got into a very, very nice and elegant house, and fine schools, etc.
And the school, was this now more of a public school that you came?
In the beginning, 1 or 2 years in public school, and then I attended a very nice high school. But we lived such a beautiful life. I went to dancing classes and got a medal even. Polish it first.
No, this is wonderful. This is the medal. This was for dancing.
My name is on the border of the coin.
Wow.
If you see on the border.
Oh, on the border. Wow, that's wonderful. Yes, we can see it. And Robert, when you went back to school, how was the Danish kids?
Only nice.
Did they know what you had gone through, or
Yes.
did they ask you questions?
Yes, that I don't remember, but it was very normal, very normal.
And you never experienced any anti-Semitism, or?
Not really, no. No.
And your brother, he had his bar mitzvah in Denmark?
My younger brother?
Your younger brother?
Yes.
Det må det være.
Yes, in the big shul which we belonged to. Yes.
So there must have also been a wonderful simcha, a wonderful
Indeed,
ceremony.
with friends and family, etc. I can only tell you that we have been so privileged, even in the darkest hours. We have had the luck of life.
So I want to ask you, in your humble opinion, why was Denmark different to the rest of Europe?
That is a very good central question. And I don't know if I have one answer. Maybe there are many answers. The Danes have a nature of looking at things in a very plain, relaxed way. They're not dramatic, they're not angry people, they're not, I would say, Danish nature is basically friendly. And I also think that when Ramona came to Denmark, she realized that people were quite friendly.
Yes.
Even if Ramona was coming from outside and had to accommodate with friends and area and jobs, etc. The conflict and drama is far away from the Danish mind.
I think that the Danish, that they kept your household with all the items.
Oh, that's only one
that is
facet which I told you about, but there are many ways in which we were welcomed back. That's fantastic. So I can only say that we have been privileged and lucky, and also successful in what we did in work and house, etc.
And if I can ask you, what message do you give to your children and grandchildren and to future generations?
As to religion?
As to life in general?
We don't preach any ideas or advice or any good quotes or saying, but we have a granddaughter here living partly here, partly in Ariel, and she doesn't need advice. She's 24 years old and she is managing everything, very nice looking, and she manages everything, and she doesn't need any kind of advice. But my wife is so good to her and supplies her, but with necessary things. But
you know, coming from what you went through and how people helped and how your father and mother had the insight to leave Germany. It's miracle. It's miraculous, and it was actually quite unbelievable what they did.
But I think contribution to this was partly that we were so near to Denmark in northern Germany, very short. Partly there were very close relationship. My grandmother, my mother's mother, was at my birth, and I have a written letter about the drama of my unexpected birth. Word after word, exactly minute after minute, that suddenly the one wants to get out.
It's amazing. That is actually quite, and it was 5 hours. 5 hours.
Yes.
How do they explain it medically? Because it's very rare that it.
I would like to talk with a midwife.
Well, Robert, I just want to
In all
thank
these
you.
things, there's
So this is a picture of a Chanukia, which is 9 generations in your
Yes.
family.
And it was hanging in my uncle's home, and we often saw it also for Hanukkah.
And where is it today?
I think with my cousin, who is
granddaughter.
grand.
Your cousin's children.
Yeah, my cousin's children, and he is a painter at the Royal Theatre in Copenhagen, and his wife is a singer.
Nice.
It's a picture of me because from the museum of this provincial town I got the key so I could myself go into the cemetery. Can I hold it?
And where is the cemetery?
In Fredericia, it's the city in Jutland near the German border. And you know how the Jews landed there? The Danish king wanted tobacco makers from Portugal, and that's from where my family comes.
They're originally from.
Portugal, via Holland into Denmark, and that's the city where they were welcomed most, and that's where my 9 generation back grandfather was a chief rabbi. And there were still synagogues, but now there are no more Jews there.
What was his name?
His name is Rabbi Israel Beer. He was buried in Fredericia 1732, and he published books about methods to Shrita. There are several books on him.
It's amazing. So we'll go through these. So, Robert, I am so grateful to you. It's been such an honor and a privilege to be here with you.
But you are used to interviews.
No, but this has been so amazing and so special. And you should just have only mazel and bracha and maybe stream
but
to 120.
we were happy to meet you.
Well, it's been such a privilege to be here.
Thank you.
And your story is so heartwarming to hear.
You know,
really, so
if I
positive.
should be a bit negative just for a minute, I was sorry that the article in Jerusalem Post couldn't contain more of my life, because I have had so many interesting experiences which could have a value for others. Once during my time in an advertising agency, I got a scholarship to travel free around America, the whole world, tour around the world, 4 months, everything paid as scholarships. And this is at the end I stopped in Israel, and that's how I met Ramona.
And how many years have you been married?
62.
Wow.
62 due to my wife.
65. You got married in 1965.
Wow.
So due to my wife's tolerance.
59 years, yeah.
60.
And I
We are
have
not
a
60 years.
I have a picture here. This was from the Jerusalem Post. This wonderful, I think it's a wonderful article. And they have also a picture with you with Queen Margaret II of Denmark.
That's the gift from her on the wall.
And with your wife Ramona. It's wonderful. So here we have Ramona and Robert, and you should just be married for many, many more years and just have nachas and
We are working on it. We are working.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
That's why Ramona is feeding me so well.
And Robert,
Thank
this is a very special picture that you received from the Queen.
Yes, as a gift and
The
signed.
lithography.
Signed. HC means own print. That it's own production.
And how did you have the connection with the Queen?
Oh, in several respects. One is I was director for the Royal Theatre sponsor work, and they wanted to make a special national ballet where the Queen should do the decoration and clothing, the dress, costumes, and it should be financed somehow extra. And as I was in charge of the sponsor contracts at the Royal Theatre, then I created the funds. And another job was this one, which is a front cover of a magazine we published. I can show it to you.
And you also changed the face of Denmark with the advertising.
Copenhagen.
With Copenhagen.
Yes.
And you have it behind. Wonderful. Was that your idea?
Yes. And the artist was a close friend of ours.
It's so special. And because of this idea, it became very popular.
Yes.
Copenhagen
Yes.
became a very popular tourist
Became
destination.
wonderful. Yes.
What made you think of this idea? It's such a special...
Because we worked so closely with the marketing and advertising and artists. I can show you a little more here. But you should stay here for some days.
This is the table that you made when you came back.
Yes, just after I arrived from Sweden.
So this is a pencil sketch.
A sketch before it became world spread, or what you call it, that it got out in the world. I had to confirm it, and I of course mixed a lot.
It's wonderful.
I have had such an interesting life.
And here we have, and you should continue, Robert. You should.
No, I'm not active. No.
This is at the bottom one.
Oh, that is a special story. Our son and our daughter, our son and Ramona had to be interned in a hospital because there's been some epidemic where they, I think, were in a car where some epidemic cases was, and then they had to go for a week in the hospital just to be isolated, was insulated. Mm-hmm. And when they came out, he wrote this, "Dear Ramona and Peter, I'm so happy to see you again out in the free, wonderful greeting from Antoni."
Wow. But the top one is very special. It's a lovely
sketch.
Yeah.
But we had many sketches. I think I can show you, but if you should see what.
This is what a beautiful
and
theatre this is. The
yes.
Royal National Theatre.
Yes, the Royal Theatre of Copenhagen, and I had absolutely a wonderful time with them. I worked there together with my job as a director of the Copenhagen Tourist Office. But I want to tell you a real little story about Israel and my life here. When I came here, I had no idea what I should do, how I should work, how I should make money. My wife, you knew Hebrew from earlier stay here, I not. So, due to a contact with my wife, I got a request from a big forwarding company. We want a whole new image for our company reaching out worldwide. Would you be able to help us? And that I did, and this is the result. And it was like the birds go around in the world. That's how we service around the world, all 24 hours, and watch your goods carefully and have a nice cooperation with our clients. And when I showed my idea to him, he was so happy he nearly cried. And then I had the question to print it, because I didn't know a printer here. I was completely new. And then Ramona and I went through the shopping center here and were passing by an open door of a studio, and there was a lady who said, "Can I help you?" I said, "Do you do printing?" "Yes, that's my profession." And then she helped to get this printed, and that resulted in 30 years of cooperation with this, and that's why I had to travel to Scandinavia 50 times while I was here.
And then you brought out these wonderful...
We had nice local studios, design studios.
It's so special.
I thought I should sweep the screen.
It's Maxine
Levite.
Levita. And how many issues did you make? There were many. This is the 24th one already.
I think 30, but then people changed to computers, and the printed issues were not so popular anymore, so we stopped.
And Robert, coming to Israel, are you happy that you decided to make Aliyah and to come live in Israel?
Yes, but I was also having nice challenges in Denmark. Very nice. In all respects, I was very happy with everything I did there. The only thing which was a kind of a mistake was I finished, I went through all the law studies and graduated from Copenhagen University, and I never used it.
But you did so many other things. You had such an impact with whatever you did, and you became so successful in...
And I have only told you a little fraction of what my life has been. I have drawers full.
Well, Robert, I just want to thank you so much, and you should just continue to inspire and to be happily married and to have nachas from your family.
And I am happy to meet you.
It's been a great privilege and honor, really, and I'm grateful.
And I hope that it could contribute to your interest in life.
Thank you so much, Robert. Thank you very, very much.